Today I have two questions for you. The first one is, what does it mean to have a spiritual conversion to Unitarian Universalism? The second question I have for you is, does our faith allow for a deep level of spiritual awakening? So, let me start by telling you, I personally had a spiritual conversion to Unitarian Universalism. In 1997, when I went to my first UU service, UU for visitors is short for Unitarian Universalism, I went to my first UU service downtown at First UU where Bob Shibley was speaking about the Beatles. And all the hymns were Beatles songs. And I thought to myself, my word, why are there not 10,000 people here? It was just fantastic. And Bob was sharing about why he thought the Beatles happened at all. He said the Beatles were an answer to the 1950s and all the fraudulence that went on in the 1950s. Because the 1950s was the beginning of the television boom, and also a subtle brainwashing that came with it. In the 1950s, all of the TV shows showed households and families that were loving and respectful and perfect in every way. The fathers were leaders and wise, and the mothers were congenial and funny and wore dresses and pearls. And there was this image. And I just remember one of my clients one time saying to me, I used to watch those shows, Leave It to Beaver and the Danny Thomas Show and Father Knows Best. And I used to think, my house isn't anything like that. My house is crazy. It sometimes feels like we're living in the zoo. And so then the 1960s came along, and there was this rebellion against that image, that fraudulence of the 1950s. Young people started saying, that is not real. That is so fake. We have real problems that we need to take care of. They started marching for civil rights for black people. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll was prevalent, because it was in contrast to all the proper things they were supposed to be doing. People in college marched against the Vietnam War. They stood up for the first time against the President of the United States and said, no, this is not okay. They stood up against the establishment. And into all of this walk the Beatles. The Beatles with their simple, honest, direct messages. She loves you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All you need is love. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all we need. I want to hold your hand. What a beautiful message. I just want to hold your hand. I just want to connect with you. And also, one of my favorites is, we can work it out. Life is very short, and there's no time for fighting and fussing, my friends. And then John Lennon's wonderful song that Mitch played for us, and Jeff as well, Imagine, that came out, that we could imagine a whole world of world peace. Shibley went on to talk about, we needed to get real. We needed to start getting out of that fraudulence and admit that life is not perfect. I am not perfect. Our family is surely not perfect, but we're doing the best we can. And we got rid of that show of everything has to be perfect to be okay. The Beatles told us, get back to the love. Get back to the love. Loving black people, white people, Vietnamese people, loving our 18-year-old soldiers that were being sent and traumatized in Vietnam and killed for no good reason. The Beatles came out and said, stop, come together right now. And I tell you, when I heard Bob Shibley talk, I fell in love. At that very moment, I fell in love. I had never heard of Unitarian Universalism before. And suddenly, in that moment, I was a convert. I converted. I had a spiritual conversion to Unitarian Universalism. Because what I was hearing, I heard as truth. And it resonated in my soul. I had long left behind the doctrine of my childhood. Years earlier, when my pastor, when I was in college, told me quite confidently when I asked him, yes, Gandhi is burning in hell. He said, in fact, he'll be burning in hell for all of eternity. And it was at that moment when I said, I can't believe this anymore. I can't. And I got up and I walked out and I started a search for a new spirituality, a more honest one that made sense to my heart, but it also made sense to my head. Listening to Bob Shibley, I suddenly felt I found it. I feel at home. My spirit relaxed. I felt comfortable there. I hope you've had that too. I hope you've had that moment of spiritual conversion where your heart and your head come together and this faith makes sense to you. We had a funeral here not too long ago, and one of the attendees came up to me and asked me to explain to them what Unitarian Universalism was. And I was like, wow, my favorite topic. Okay, here we go. And that poor woman, she heard probably more than she wanted to. But when I was finished explaining it, she said, I like it here. Everybody seems so real. They're like real connections. People are just talking to each other and they're down to earth. She said, let me tell you something. This is not going on in the Catholic Church. She said, here I feel, and she searched for a word. And then she said, I feel safe here. And just like that, she had a spiritual conversion to Unitarian Universalism. And she said, you know what? When I get back to Denver, I'm going to look up the UU church in my neighborhood. And I was like, yes, all right. So what does it mean to have a spiritual conversion to Unitarian Universalist? It means I feel safe. I feel at home. There is room for me here with different opinions, because there is. There's room for you, whatever you believe, and let's talk about it. There's room for you to believe something different than what I believe. And I think that's amazing. A conversion also means that you get that you do not have to leave your brain at home when you come to church. You can combine the spiritual and the emotional and the intellectual all together. And of course, we love discussions. It reminds me of that old UU joke that says, what happens when you combine a Jehovah's Witness with a Unitarian Universalist? You get someone who goes door to door looking for a discussion. That's us. But now comes the second question, a harder question. Does our faith allow for a deep level spiritual awakening? Is that possible as a Unitarian Universalist? Since we don't, in general, have a consistent view of God. We don't have a definition that we all agree on. So can we get to a deep spiritual awakening? I will tell you the short answer is yes. And the long answer is what Jesus said, seek and ye shall find. Because here's the secret. Spiritual awakening is anywhere and everywhere. It's bigger than religion. And it's possible in all religions. What I'm saying there are many, many paths to spiritual awakening, including Unitarian Universalism. Here, though, you don't have to believe in God in order to have a spiritual awakening. It's okay if you do believe in God and you can have a spiritual awakening, but it's not a necessary criteria that you have a personal relationship or an understanding of God the same as everybody else. Now you might be thinking, what are you talking about, Patti? What is a spiritual awakening anyway? And how do you know when you're having one? Well, a spiritual awakening to me is when you're suddenly able to see something that you couldn't see before. The world tilts a little bit and you see it at a different angle. It's kind of like if you're walking down a long hallway and it's tall walls on either side and you can see everything in the hallway and everything ahead. And you're walking down this and then the hallway ends. It ends right here. And suddenly I can see all of this as well. And I think, my brain is exploding, I'm pretty sure. Because what is all of this life that I didn't even know was there before? That's how a spiritual awakening is. I like to use the example of when my husband and I first went snorkeling. We were in Cancun, and we were there for 3 days, and everything was beautiful. The water, the sun, the sea, the surf, the clothes, the birds, the food, everything was lovely. And on day 4, we decided to go snorkeling. And we rented our mask and our snorkel and our fins, and we waded into the water. And I'll never forget that moment when I put my mask on the water. There were fish down there. A lot of them. Yellow ones, striped ones, big ones, a whole school of ones, the sunshine coming in, and I thought, my word, where has all of this been? Because it wasn't there the day before. But of course it was. I just didn't have any connection to it. And that's how spiritual awakening is. We don't have connection to something, and then we do. We can see a whole other thing going on. So how do you know if you're having a spiritual awakening? Well, you feel like something inside of you has changed. You feel like something inside of you has shifted. You can't really explain it. You can't really put words to it even. But there's some sensation inside of you. You might even feel like, I'm a new person. I don't even relate to that other person that I used to be. Because that happens. Sometimes when I'm working with couples, I'm a psychotherapist for you who don't know me. I'm working with couples and they will be arguing about something. They will be arguing about, you're late, it's your fault. No, you are the one that made me late. No, you are the one that, or they will be arguing about, I have told you to close those drawers 100 times and you didn't do it again. And I will just say, okay, let's just stop that. Because it won't be long until you laugh at yourself that is what I'm arguing about. Because when you have the awakening, you realize those things don't matter. Those are details. What matters is you feel loved by me and I feel loved by you. That's the only thing that matters. People who get sober tell me they have that experience. They don't even recognize their old self. They say, I used to do this so much, and I have a sex addict that told me this week, I used to spend years of my life looking at pornography. And now I think, I wasted all that time. What was I doing? I had an alcoholic this week tell me, every time I went out drinking with my friends, my goal was to black out. He said, how crazy is that? I'm not that person anymore. I don't want that in my life anymore. I'm not attracted to that anymore. Because he had a spiritual awakening. Sometimes with an awakening, when something has fundamentally changed inside of you, it brings you happiness and satisfaction, and yet it feels so odd, so foreign. You might feel like you feel more alive. You might feel like, I don't care about things anymore. What I care about are people. I care about connecting with you. I care about connecting with you. I care about the relationship I have with you. And those are the things that start to matter. Another thing that happens with spiritual awakening is that we have many of them in our lifetime. Some of them are really small, and some of them are really huge. And some of them happen as a process, and some of them happen as an event, a pleasant surprise, like, wow. I remember the first time I went to Germany. I moved to Germany, actually, for a few months. And I was stunned to find out that the Germans called their country Deutschland. My brain exploded. My world got bigger. I'm like, you're kidding. Why don't they call it Germany? Or why don't we call it Deutschland? And suddenly I realized there was a bigger world besides America. And that was mind-blowing to me for sure. Now, sometimes spiritual awakenings come without our permission. They come without even consulting us. When I got my diagnosis of cancer 6 years ago, I had not ordered that. I had not requested that. In fact, I didn't ever even think about that I would get cancer. It just walked in one day and said, hey, here I am to wake you up. Here I am to wake you up to a higher level of loving, a higher level of connecting to this life that you're in. Cancer gave me so many gifts. It let me know how fragile life is. It let me know how fast it can be gone. They gave me 3 months to live. I'm still here 6 years later. So it made me connect to this amazing life that we're having, this journey that we're all on together, this adventure. And it made me appreciate all of it. So sometimes spiritual awakenings just show up, or at least the opportunity to spiritually awake shows up. A car accident, a friend dies, a relative dies, you lose your job, you get fired. You didn't expect that. Your partner walks out on you, files for a divorce, didn't expect that. Your house burns down, or in our case it floods. Your spouse gets Alzheimer's. Believe me, these things, when they show up, they do not look like spiritual awakenings. So if you're going through a trauma right now in your life, or you're going through a hard time right now in your life, I just want to encourage you. I just want you to know, don't panic, because the spiritual awakening will show up. It might take a year for you to figure out why that happened. We're kind of having that experience politically. But I believe the spiritual awakening will show up. Here's one of the things that I have in my office that I brought to share with you. Because I also believe that spiritual awakenings happen everywhere and anywhere. They can happen right here in this sanctuary. They can happen on the side of a mountain. And here's something from my office. It's 2 children, a little boy and a little girl. And he's holding up this shell to her ear. And she's amazed. And she's listening to the ocean. And she's connecting to the sacred. The saying says, listening to your heart, finding out who you are is not simple. It takes time for the chatter to quiet down, or the trauma or the challenge to quiet down. In the silence of not doing, we begin to know what we feel. If we listen and we hear what is being offered to us, then anything in life can be our guide. We can connect to the sacred right here, listening to the ocean. That's what it's about. Connecting to the sacred, connecting to higher levels of truth and love. And can you do it here? Oh yeah, you can do it right here at this fellowship, the Unitarian Fellowship of Houston. You might say, how? I say, seek and ye shall find. Participate. Get involved here. This fellowship is involved right now in 4 outreach programs, and I would like to add a couple more. Each one is an opportunity for you to get connected more to your heart and a deeper level of awakening. First, we support MAM, Memorial Area Ministries. Through MAM, we pack backpacks every year for students who cannot afford what they need to go to school. And right now we are in the middle of a campaign where we are packing bags for people for new residents where they're just starting out. Here's one, for example. I packed mine last night. It costs $8 if you go to MAM. I will joyfully give you one of these bags to pack. Because I tell you, when you do that, you will be amazed at how much of your love you can stuff in one little bag. When I was shopping, I thought, I wonder who's going to get this bag. I wonder if they want yellow dish soap or green dish soap. On each item that I put in the bag, I said, I love you, whoever is receiving this. I want only good for you. I want you to have a new start in life. I want everything to work smoothly for you. And I joyously give this to you. It's an opportunity. I have the bags. You can have one at the end of service, for sure. Second, here at the fellowship, we go to Turning Point every month and we feed the homeless elderly people there. And I encourage you to volunteer one Saturday a month to go and cook spaghetti and serve to the residents there. Look them in the eye. Smile at them. Hear their stories. Because the stories will give you more layers in your heart, in your soul, and you will have a spiritual awakening. You have love to give away. In fact, you have an abundance of it. You are so rich, you don't even know it. You have the most valuable commodity there is on the planet, and that's love. I want you to see yourself with your pockets just stuffed full of it. That you got love everywhere that you can give. That you can pull it out and at any time, the person next to you, the person at the cashier at the store, anybody, that you can offer just a little bit of this love that says, I see you, I value you, I want to know you, I want to hear your story, and become part of the healing in the world. Because love heals whether you are giving it or whether you are receiving it. The Yugoslavian writer Mesa Salamovi said, everyone says that love hurts, but that is not true. Loneliness hurts. Rejection hurts. Losing someone hurts. Everyone gets these things confused with love. Because in reality, love is the only thing in this world that can cover up and soothe any pain in this world and help somebody feel wonderful again. You are full of it. Give it away. Give it to people. Don't be stingy with it. Don't be saying, I'm going to hold it in. I had a client a couple of weeks ago, a sad story that made me cry at the end. A mother and a daughter. The parents had divorced when she was 4 years old. The daughter had lived with her mom. She's going to be a senior in high school. And she said, Mom, I want to go live with my dad. It's not uncommon. If you've done a good job parenting, that child has gotten their circle finished with you, and they need to get their circle finished with that other parent. And she was saying, it's not about you, Mom. I love you. I love you a lot. I just want to get that circle finished with my dad. And her mom said, no. You can't do that. And I said, well, actually I think it would be good for her to be able to get that. I said, maybe let's just have her go there for the summer and we'll reevaluate. No. Her mother said she is not allowed to do that because her ex, can't win. And my heart bled for that little girl because she needed to be seen and loved and given what she needed from her mom. Her mom said, if she goes with her dad, I'm going to move and she'll never see me again. I asked her to come in individually and talk to her about it and try to get through to her. She did move, but she is opening her heart to again see her daughter. Thank you for that. So you see, we can't be stingy about it. We got to open our hearts and give it out. A third community project that we do right here is we support Hatch, a transgendered group, a support group for teens that are transgenders and even young 20s that are, because they have so much prejudice against them. They need our help. They need us to show up. And as Unitarian Universalists, we show up. Finally, the fourth project that we're committing to this year is one that one of our members brought forward and said, you know what, this sounds good to me. I think we should get involved. It's helping the Lutheran Church feed people on Thanksgiving, making sure that they have Thanksgiving dinners. And she said, I think we should get involved. And I said, yes, I think we should get involved too. And I want you to know, if you have an idea that you think we should get involved with and support, I would like to hear it. Because we want to spread our love, our standing on the side of love, out into the community. 2 more projects I would like to add this year. One is a parents' night out in July, so that they can have free babysitting. Anybody want to join me to babysit? I would love to know who you are so that I can have help in that project. The second is, I would like our congregation to send one of our teens to a Unitarian Universalist nature camp this summer. Because teenage years are hard years. They're struggle years. And nature, as Emerson told us, returns us to sanity. So we have some teens, and we have some that their parents would like them to return to sanity. So I would like us to support one of them. It is $800 for camp for 1 week. I've mentioned it to a few people. I've already collected $400. If you have $5 to give, I will take it, because I want us to support our youth here. So you see, there are lots of ways for us to stand on the side of love and spread that out into the community. And let me tell you something. Your life isn't very long, and mine isn't either. We each have a short time left on the planet. And so I want to encourage you to start giving away your love currency like crazy. And if you do that, I guarantee you, the layers of your soul will get deeper and you will have a spiritual awakening. Blessed be, and amen. Go forth. Share your love. Spend your currency. Give it to everybody you meet. Blessed be.